fucking Hook on it, but Hook turns it around and suplexes old Jack through the windshield. It didn't bust all the way out. It's the windshield glass, so it broke everywhere. And you could see that it cut Jack on his arm. You could see him bleeding when they staggered back to the ring. But he just wanted to prove that even though that he was told by people representing his employers, various people in charge of various things, that he shouldn't do it. And then he was told by one of the big stars in the company, of which he is not one of those, that he shouldn't do it. But then he gets over there and he said, well, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to make sure that this fucking guy that told me no is suitably chastened for restricting my artistic creativity.
Hey, the bigger issue is, since the story got out, did Tony tell him no?
Well, nobody even said Tony was there at the time.
I'm saying for the second time for doing it at the stadium. I thought that's what you were talking about.
Oh, no, I'm saying that all these people told him not to do it the first time. It has not come out whether he bothered to tell anybody that they were going to go through the windshield this time around, or whether this was just something he was going to do and he was going to tell the camera, because he knew that Punk was on first on the pay-per-view as the next match, and he'd be back there within reach of the monitor, standing by like a good professional, waiting to go out so they didn't have to run and look for him.
And you didn't do justice to his voice. You made it sound like, because again, like his
I made it sound like he was a grown adult man, didn't I?
Yeah, his voice is part of the issue with his promos, but it was like, real glass, cry me a river.
Yeah, cry me a river. And he's also 137 pounds.
But I have to think they have a car out there. There's no way he's doing that spot without someone giving pre-approval. There's a car out there. You have to expect it's going to happen, too.
Well, but the question is anybody supposed to go through the windshield, or are they just supposed to slam their head in the fucking door, or were they going to start it and run over somebody? We don't fucking know, but point being, childish bullshit, right? From the children. The same group that we always hear from.
Same locker
children.
Room.
Same locker room. So, and now that the Cucamonga contention had been heard from, they go ahead and finish their match, does Jack and Hook. And then, apparently from what we're told, from what we are hearing that has been reported, Jack Perry,
I know, every reporting that she need to get slapped.
One guy's coming through Gorilla, the other guy's standing there, you're going to pass, right?
That's what Ryback was in.
So Jack apparently comes through and either, the story was confronted Punk, but either said something smart-ass and or bumped him as he went by him saying something. At one time, the story was that Punk didn't punch Perry, but that was quickly modified to no. A lot of people are saying he choked him. Now, this has brought images to mind to people on Twitter apparently of that Punk reached up and grabbed the guy in a rear naked choke or a front head chancery or something and choked him out on the floor. I don't believe this to be the case. I have not heard, we don't know yet, but the first thing when I thought, and I'm envisioning this kind of confrontation where this little fucking cocky asswipe, after he said that right in the fucking camera where he knows the guy's going to be watching the monitor, and then he comes through Gorilla, whether he said something or whether he just shoulder bumped him on the way by or whatever, I think Punk goozled him. And that would be the normal reaction to me would be to goozle the fucking guy and tell him what the fuck you have a problem with. I don't think...
People may not know what the term goozle means.
Oh, good Lord. He grabbed him by the goozle pipe. Imagine you're going to choke slam somebody, ladies and gentlemen, and the first move is to reach out and grab them around the neck.
Here's a Kuro. No good.
We things have no limit. Let's start full power. But normally you wouldn't do it if you're right-handed. You wouldn't do it with your right hand. If you're gonna, that used to be what the boys would say, well, I had to goozle that guy. You grab him around the goozle pipe. If the guy is up in your face, he's close enough, you got a problem with him, you're mad, but at the same time, you either don't want to hit him, you don't have room to fight, you don't necessarily think it needs to come to that right now, but the point needs to be delivered. If you're standing in front of the guy, you reach out with your left hand fairly quickly and snatch that motherfucker around the neck. With your thumb on one side of his neck and your fucking fingers on the other side of his neck, that means his goozle pipe, his windpipe is in the middle, and you squeeze. And while you're squeezing, and if there's a wall behind him, even better yet, because then you're squeezing and pushing, and you got him pinned up against the fucking wall, and that's where you can get him close, and you can relate the message to him that you want him to hear while you're looking in his fucking eyes and telling him what's going to happen if he doesn't have the proper goddamn attitude when you let go of his fucking neck. That's when you goozle somebody. That's what Ron Harris did to Shawn Michaels in Madison Square Garden. That's what the Sheik did to that fucking collegiate wrestler that wanted to try him that time in the back of the Kobo. That's what I can't imagine anybody in the wrestling business at one time or another hasn't goozled somebody, whether it be fellow co-worker, fan, or fucking potential employer or representative of same. Or just, if you're out somewhere, I mean, you've goozled people in your goddamn daily life, haven't you, Brian?
What do you mean in your daily life? Like, if you get into a fight, you get into a fight, you do all sorts of things, but your daily life?
No, you've never...
Have I ever put the banker against the wall by the throat? No, I haven't had to do that.
Well, that's
my lawyer does that.
You would be an odd standout in the wrestling business, at least up until the last 20 years or so, because I can think of about 12 to 15 people at various instances over time that I have had to goozle to make a point to. But anyway, that's what and I bet that's what Punk did. He fucking goozled him, and he put him up against a convenient wall, and he said, you little motherfucker, I gotta go out and work now, or I would have more time to fucking go into this with you, but you probably shouldn't be here when I'm fucking come back. Something like that. I mean, you know, whatever.
I have not seen any detail about him goozling it. Where are you getting this?
Somebody said he choked him.
I saw a front face lock.
Do you think he got him in a front face lock?
I don't know.
I just heard choked him, and I'm thinking, well, that would be an odd place to just go for the UFC stuff right there. I would think you just, with that little trick, because what's Jack Perry gonna fucking do? What's he gonna fucking do? He should have thought about that before he started running his dick liquor. But if I was Punk, I gotta go out for this match, I'm gonna fucking goozle him, I'm gonna tell him what I think of him, and I'm gonna fucking leave the door open to rehash this later on and go out and have my match. So that's what I thought. That's what I could envision happening.
And again, we don't know the whole story, because Sean Ross Sapp was the first one with a kind of a detailed story, and then Miro said it wasn't true that he was there. Miro didn't say what he saw. And there's, the Punk side, and then there's the other side. Everyone can agree there was a confrontation and some bumping. Jack Perry was asked to leave the building. If you're Tony Khan, and you are about to begin the greatest day of your life as a wrestler, do you appreciate the fact that Jack Perry started this shit?
No, I don't. But at the same time, I don't know if Tony will realize that he's continuing to let these jackoffs do this, or whether he just thinks this is stuff that happens and there's nothing he can do about it. I don't know yet whether, fire the fucking little goon. Send a message. Look, I don't care if y'all have a problem and you want to talk about it in the back, then that's fine, we'll all sit down. But at next person that does shit on the air, I'm firing them, just like I fired Jungle Stooge. Get it? That would send a message.
Either fire them or make them work together. That's the other thing, because now everyone knows this happened. Everyone knows. So I think that's what hurts the Bucks. When people see the Bucks now, people know that CM Punk kicked their ass. They know that happened. And they know that there's never going to be any working retribution. Now here's another guy. No one is saying Jack Perry came out of this for the better. everyone's saying it's a confrontation, and one way or another, Punk schooled him. Whether it was goozled him, or whether it was say fuck you to him, whatever it was, something happened. People are going to know about it. You either have to do something with it, or what's the point of the whole thing? Then you have more people on the roster who can't work with the biggest single star on the roster.
Well, but the thing is, anybody clamor to see CM Punk versus Jungle Jack Perry anyway?
They could make it mean something. I'm not saying on the face of it anyone's demanding that match. Certainly not.
I think we're stretching it to say that you could even make that match a try. Would that be the best use of Punk's time and effort to try to drag a match and money out of Jack Perry?
The argument wasn't whether it was the best use of CM Punk. It certainly wouldn't be.
So I would make guys work together when, you know, with the group of the Elite versus Punk and FTR. You could get money out of a shoot incident that happened out of that. But just Punk versus Perry.
I'm not saying Punk versus Jack Perry to main event All Out. Although I don't know who Punk's working with at All Out. We'll see what happens.
Do we know who's working it all out? It's only fucking 5 days away.
There's Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs. There's Ruby Soho versus Statlander. There's another Darby versus Luchasaurus, I think, or Darby versus Christian. One of the two.
How much of that, Doris, is just making the simple pass?
I think the best basketball is...
I'm a pretty experienced outdoors woman, but I've never mastered knot tying. A pretty important skill when it comes to building shelters and tying knots.
On the
But I was saying,
in triple threat position. But as soon as you don't have anything, move it to the next guy. So I couldn't agree more.
well, we have some CM Punk news.
From David Aldridge.
A few things. A report from Nick Houseman, House of Wrestling. The headline, no one from AEW met CM Punk at Heathrow Airport. Exclusive. Before things backstage became chaotic for Punk, it sounds as if his travel also had some hiccups. House of Wrestling has learned that when Punk landed at Heathrow Airport for AEW All in London on Saturday morning, no one from AEW was there to greet him. There was also no car service to take him to his hotel. And when he texted a number he was given by AEW for the driver, it bounced back as being an invalid number. After waiting for a while, Punk showed...
They fly the biggest star in the company across the fucking ocean and leave him standing at fucking Heathrow Airport with no idea where he's supposed to go or how he's supposed to fucking get there. And the contact that he's given for his alleged transportation is no good.
After waiting for a while, Punk chose to buy a train ticket and find his own way to the hotel. We are told that the Tube, that's the subway in England, was fairly busy at the time. Punk got lost, and a few fans who noticed the Second City Saint helped him figure out where he was going.
Oh my God.
It appears that Punk got into London so close to the actual event because he had taping commitments in Atlanta on Wednesday and wanted to spend Thursday with his wife and dog Larry.
Yeah, you got fit in there too?
But his dog Larry is his wife and his dog Larry before heading out on Friday and landing on Saturday morning. So that's the first Punk report.
For the show. Right? Was the show Saturday? Was the show Saturday? Show was Saturday.
The show was Saturday evening in London, afternoon here in the East. Or the West, I guess, technically.
In the East.
Well, that's the first report. The second report, Brian Alvarez of F4W Online and the Wrestling Observer is reporting, the belief within AEW is that Punk and Jack were both suspended pending the results of an investigation, which would mean neither will work All Out.
What?
If they don't have Punk at All Out, can you imagine?
In Chicago. They'll boo him out of the fucking building. What the fuck? Why would you suspend the fucking guy that's the star of the goddamn show because this small fucking insignificant numbnut-brained idiot, Jack Perry, decides that he's again going to do childish shit, and when he finds out that at least some people in this business still stand up for themselves, and he gets snatched, and then he goes crying to somebody about it? But can nobody take their goddamn earned ass kicking anymore? But can nobody take their goddamn earned ass kicking anymore? What the fuck? Tell the child he shouldn't have done what he did, and he's lucky Punk didn't do worse. And if he don't like it, then here's your contract, Jack. Rip, rip, rip. Good luck in your future endeavors. What the fuck is difficult about that?
I have a little bit more here from Nick Hausman about the actual incident.
Okay.
Reports regarding the actual altercation between Punk and Perry backstage at AEW All-In and the subsequent aftermath have differed, with some saying Punk initiated the confrontation and others claiming it was Perry who acted first. After asking around, here is what House of Wrestling can report.
Well, and we know that their word is like gold.
Well, we can say that Nick Hausman has been all over all this Punk stuff. He's a Chicago guy, and he's been involved in all this Punk stuff, so let's see what this says. From what we are told, Punk was waiting in the gorilla position before the show went live for his match against Samoa Joe when Perry entered the area and walked up to him. Punk initiated the verbal exchange between the two, asking Perry if he had something to say. And the conversation quickly escalated, leading to Perry asking Punk to do something about it. This is when Punk shoved Perry. Perry responded by shoving Punk back.
Oh my God.
And then Punk put him in what is being described as a chokehold. We're told Punk viewed putting Perry in a chokehold as a way to neutralize the situation, as he's a trained fighter and does not want to have to fight Perry. No punches were thrown, as far as we know. Punk then walked to his dressing room.
But again, who does this little needle-dicked simpleton think he is? To tell CM Punk, boy, you gonna do something about it? Yeah, apparently. Why would you think he wasn't? Who's gonna be intimidated by Jack fucking Perry?
Well, forget about even intimidation. What big star in wrestling history, Hogan, Austin, Flair, whoever you want to name, would let one of the mid-card or undercard guys in the pre-show match live on air say shit about them right into the camera?
And then announce to them afterwards, oh, are you going to do something about it?
Yeah, what would Hogan have done? He would have had the guy fired. That's what he would have done.
Unbelievable.
Punk then walked to his dressing room, got cleaned up, and spoke with AEW security. Punk, knowing the situation was not good, asked them if it would be better for everyone if he left the building, and was told that nobody was asking him to leave. But it might make things easier if he did. Punk agreed, left the building of his own accord, walked to his hotel, and ordered Nando's for some of the talent, whom he met up with after the show.
Boom, and Nando's, by the way. What a fucking meal.
From what we gather, it does not sound like there's been much, if any, communication between Punk and AEW since last night. So this is a developing story, just like everything seems to be every time we record.
How is this a surprise, though? I mean,
which aspect of it?
Well, that you're going to say something smart-ass to Punk and something's going to happen. How is it a surprise? The thing that, again, that gobsmacks me is that it's a surprise to these guys that they are getting snatched or punched or whacked with a chair or whatever's happening to them in a wrestling locker room like that. How in the world can this happen?
Do you think Jack Perry's been in a lot of fights in his life? Do you think Jack Perry has had issues where something he said could cause him to get punched in the mouth and he would have to defend himself?
Probably not.
I would bet that probably didn't have growing up in Beverly Hills. And maybe he has a false sense of entitlement. Obviously, he has a false sense of entitlement if he thinks he can do that against one of the top stars in the company on live TV.
But that's what I'm saying. They're all surprised. They're all shocked when they run their fucking mouths and they stir people up. Even if they are not aware of it, they're in the wrestling business. And in the wrestling business, it's, reasonable regularity. Somebody's going to get mad. Somebody's going to get punched. Somebody's going to get snatched. Things happen. And I don't know why they're all so surprised over it and wringing their hands and going to lawyers and legal and human relations or human resources or whatever the fuck. Again, all it boils down to is Tony doesn't have control of his shit, and he never puts his foot down and tells his employees what they're going to do and what they're going to like and what they're not going to do. And if the boss does that, then the employee has the chance to say, okay, I guess I'm going to have to do that, or fuck you, I'll go somewhere else. And it all gets settled. Nothing gets settled here because the boys have to do it themselves. And apparently the only one that's still in the wrestling business and wants to stand up for himself is fucking Punk. So he's got to be the Lone Ranger. Don't run your fucking yap and won't nobody get goozled. But they can't stop the yap running.
It sounds like he had a second chance. You have something you want to say? And then they pushed him?
Apparently he did.
Jeez.
And here's another thing. If you're going to say shit, you can't look like Jack fucking Perry. You can't be 5'9" and 142 pounds and look puzzled all the time. You have to be ready to, if the guy's going to say, well, yes, I'm going to do this and this and the other thing about it. And then here we go.
Well, here we go. Before this becomes a 6-hour episode, it may already have to be split into 2 parts, I have to see, but that's the latest news from AEW.
To choose this life over friends, over family, and we never quit.
Automation is powering what's possible for business.
And I think that, we were convinced someone cutting a massive check to him that he's value add. And we're seeing all the little tricks and all the...
To the least, we're all... That's the way it is.
You know what's funny, Rick? Is convinced someone cutting a massive check to him that he's value add. And we're seeing all the little tricks and all the little rhetorical games he plays on the microphone and in press interviews and the like to, keep up this idea that he has something to do with this sort of impossible to see momentum that everyone seems to be referencing ever since he walked in the door. So Bischoff's in the office, Hogan nowhere to be found, Flair's with him. Bischoff said he was taking care of administrative duties.
Here, I got this whole idiotic bit of audio for you. More shit. I love the Office sketches. They're so wonderful.
You really had your hands full out there, man.
And while you're laughing, pray tell, where were you the last half hour?
I was taking care of administrative duties.
Yeah, so you're sending me out to deal with 6 chicks that are acting like my ex-wife. That wild and that crazy, right? Tearing off their clothes, trying to tear off my clothes.
You're the man for the job.
Or they didn't ask me for when the check while I was out there. You gotta be kidding me.
You handled it.
Oh, I did.
You handled it.
And while I'm handling things and while we're getting things straightened out, where, pray tell, would the Immortal one be today?
Look, Hulkster's taking care of some acquisitions for Immortal, and I'm talking some serious names here.
Well, from Honolulu, pray tell?
Well, it doesn't matter where he's doing it, as long as he's doing it.
What are you laughing about, dumbass?
Nothing, sir.
Brother.
Yeah.
What?
Ooh. What is so funny?
Who was that?
I mean, after all, you guys still laughing about last week, maybe? When Kurt Angle damn near killed both of us?
Nothing funny about that.
Assaulted us with a crowbar, busted out the window of a limousine trying to get to us? Anything funny about that?
No, sir.
So there won't be anything funny about it tonight either, because if he makes his way to the set here in the impact zone, it'll cost you your asses. You understand?
Yes, sir. Don't worry. There are dead bodies won't happen.
Good idea.
Excuse me, Eric. Do you have a second?
Who?
Trainer.
Eric?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bischoff.
And Mr. Flair.
And Mr. Flair, my apologies.
And you are?
You know who I am. I'm the head trainer. Please tell me you're not serious about putting Ken and Jeff in the match tonight. Please tell me that's not going to happen.
Don't worry. I know I got a little ahead of myself and probably made people think that I wasn't using my best judgment, but I want to assure you that, in fact, Rick, myself, Hulk Hogan, we are all in absolute agreement that match is definitely going to take place. Are you kidding me?
Mr. Bishop, you can't do that. The man suffered a concussion 1 week ago. It's not safe to put him in the ring tonight, and it's unethical, too.
Oh, my God. Roger Goodell. Please.
This isn't the NFL, Junior. You guys get paid to wrestle here, which means sometimes they get paid to get hurt here.
Why weren't you in this office 3 weeks ago when I was rolling around on thumbtacks with barbed wire and going through tables with Foley, bleeding like a son of a bitch for about a half hour? Where were you then?
This is head trauma we're talking about right now. You see what they're doing in the NFL. They're cracking down on this stuff. They're levying fines and giving out
NFL's
suspensions
ratings
to
are
players.
going down and ours are going up. We play for real here, buddy.
Look, Hulk Hogan literally crawled out of an intensive care unit to take care of business here in TNA. So the least that Kenny Anderson can do with his little boo-boo and his little head is to take care of business in the ring. So yeah, if Ken Anderson is going to do what's best for Ken Anderson, his ass will be in the ring tonight. And yes, indeed, he is going to wrestle. That's the way it is.
What happened to Dixie's policy about protecting our athletes from head traumas? Whatever happened to that?
Dixie, what the hell? She's gone. It's over. That's yesterday's news. This is a new day here in TNA.
Okay,
I didn't know the new day was in TNA.
What's that?
The new day's in TNA?
Yeah, when he said Kurt Angle attacked him with a Devon Storm, I thought that was weird. I know Daphne's there, but
I think I'm going to have to also try to find a way to isolate that Ric Flair. Psych!
Oh my god. Flair is not his best here. I mean, he's trying to make something.
This whole thing. First of all, this is like, what is this? Who said this is? Who decided rather that this was compelling television?
No, exactly.
It's so awful. It's ridiculously bad.
Oh my God, Roger Goodell, please! Oh my God! And then he said, "We play for real here, buddy." You know what's funny, Rick? Actually, you don't. Actually, you play pretend. So to say the NFL isn't playing for real and you are, I mean, I know he's just speaking off the cuff, but
right,
I had to point that out. And yeah, so I don't know if you know this, boss, but it's now a storyline that concussions are an issue in society and in American sport. It's now fodder for TNA's storylines.
I mean,
good stuff. Good stuff.
Why?
What do you see? What's the end game?
Right.
How do you leverage the fact that this is in the headlines to anything that resembles a satisfactory outcome for the wrestling fan?
Why would you highlight this, in a thing? And also, why would you make? I mean, I know that they're supposed to be heels, but what are you doing? Like, I mean, it doesn't even make them like heels. It makes them look like sadistic murderers.
So fucking bizarre. This whole idea for an angle. I never understood why they went here. So. One note, that trainer, David Sahadi, the big producer guy who comes up with the big fancy videos, that was him talking to Bischoff at the table, expressing concerns. And, yeah, so it's supposed to, I guess, make Dixie a babyface, that she cared about head trauma, and now that she's gone, they don't care anymore. But what actually happened was Jeff Hardy cracked Ken Anderson in the back of the head with a chair and opened a huge cut in the back of his head inadvertently, and gave him a concussion, and he needed to get stitched up. And the plan to have Ken Anderson go after Jeff Hardy as the first challenger after Bound for Glory was waylaid by the fact that Ken had sort of like an open-ended need to be on the shelf so he could recover from his concussion. And they were taking it pretty seriously in that, he would have to pass a series of cognitive tests before he could get back in there, and it's very hard to predict when that will happen. Look no further than Adam Cole in AEW these days, who,
Adam Cole in AEW?
Ended up in a position where he couldn't even be in
Adam Cole.
15 minutes without throwing up. And it's like, at the beginning, his concussion was different than a concussion that someone is able to come back after 10 days from. So, you never really know how long it's going to take someone to heal. But the fact that Ken Anderson suffered this concussion meant that they were sort of shit out of luck when it came to their next title program. In fact, the first for Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
And they end up taking the fact that the concussions are keeping Ken Anderson out as their storyline hook to get Matt Morgan in, as we'll talk about, as the babyface, to challenge Jeff Hardy and turn on fortune. And I guess what more than anything, this just reveals kind of how few bullets they have in the chamber if something unexpected happens, that this is where they go when their main event program kind of falls apart. Well, let's actually, no, we can work with this. Ken has a concussion, but this is in the headlines. I mean, this is huge.
Jason and I have been planning on something like this for a long time now. We've been reading the headlines about this concussion stuff.
Yes, boss, go off.
And I think that, we were
we were thinking about pitching Spike a reality show about concussions, and maybe this could be kind of a backdoor pilot to that possibility.
What's so weird is, Bischoff, Hervey, they did pitch a reality show about wrestlers, getting over from and recovering from concussions. But what really threw the Spike execs for a loop is when Bischoff told them that, in fact, what he'd like to call the series is Big Fat Cock.
We're just kind of getting a grabbing title.
Yeah, I'll say. So,
we call it Big Fat Cock.
Hey, look, it's your new favorite wrestler, Jeff Hardy, doing a moody promo in the back with lighting and shit.
Hey, I got it for you. I got it.
As I look down at the world from 25,000 feet above, it becomes more and more apparent to me that I was always in control of my own destiny. I was always above it all. I was always better than everybody else. And as I catered to the creatures of the night, looking for acceptance, Eric and Hulk made it clear to me that your acceptance was meaningless. It didn't bring me fame. And most importantly, it didn't bring me money. I am the here. I am the now. I am the Antichrist of professional wrestling. I am Jeff Hardy.
So much character work.
So ridiculous.
I mean, we're like 3 weeks after he's won the title, and this is all he's done, is these backstage videos where he reads poetry. He missed the tapings, that's why.
That's great.
He's still dealing with, his court case and all these continuances. He's still under indictment, so there's a lot of business to handle back home in North Carolina. But, it doesn't suck. It doesn't suck. I'll give him that, and I'll give you that. I was all ready to just, lay out and let you complain about it, but it wasn't because I hated it. I don't hate it. I just think it's sort of... It goes way too long without, a destination, but I think...
Well, I think... I don't know how this plays out, obviously, but to me, what I like about it is that there's hints of him maybe losing his fucking mind.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Which I'm totally down with.
And if you believe Bischoff, it's just Hardy doing his own thing, going straight to DC and getting the leeway to do it. But you did notice he had to thread Eric and Hulk's name into that, right?
Well, I'm all about that, dude, but you know what, dude? You got to kind of put us in there, brother. Kind of like, we're trying to set something up, dude. I'm thinking long-term, brother.
So I think
that end game, dude.
We've detected a theme here, and you were the first to point it out. Whoever has the world title has to sort of consider their destiny wrapped up in what Hulk Hogan's decisions are going to be like. Whoever has the championship will be mentioning Hulk Hogan. You better fucking believe that.
Is that a surprise?
Right. It's like the closest he can get to actually having the strap in his physical condition.
Right.
So this episode does a 1.13 rating and 1.48 million viewers. Fairly strong as it went up against the World Series, this being late October. They did a main event of Jeff Jarrett versus Matt Morgan that spilled over into Reaction, where they had the conclusion of the match, and that was after...
and there was no reaction?
There was no reaction, yeah. But no, it was a huge success. That match gained 158,000 viewers at a time when TNA main events weren't reliably increasing the rating over the prior segments, as we've talked about. So, there was an initial spark that actually people might be invested in Matt Morgan. And his whole character, the whole reason he turns on Fortune, or Fortune turns on him, is because at a certain point in that Impact, he busts into the office and reads Bischoff and Flair the Riot Act for, forcing Ken Anderson to wrestle with his head trauma. And Matt Morgan, who's kind of a cerebral guy, he's a politician, and he's not a moron. He's not a wonderfully charismatic pro wrestler, but he's not the dumbest guy in the locker room. So they sort of cast him as someone who's really well read on the subject of concussions, and sort of like this, his eyes are wide open to the risks. And now the babyface, instead of fighting through the injury and shutting out the pain and pushing risk aside, the babyface thing to do is to go up to management and go, "We're sick of being taken advantage of, and fuck you for wanting to put us in this position." That's the most post-Twitter babyface you can possibly think of right there.
Absolutely.
The babyface is the person who doesn't do something.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you, this is kind of the world we live in. So, I've been playing the WWE game that came out last 2K22. Okay, and
Automation is powering what's possible for businesses of every size in every industry. Unlock your potential at Automate, the largest showcase of robotics and automation in North America. May 22nd through the 25th in Detroit, Michigan. With over 600 exhibitors, 200 speakers, and more than 25,000 registrants. There's no better way to power your business. Register for free at automateshow.com. That's automateshow.com.
Spa Atlantis offers you the most relaxing, rejuvenating, revitalizing, recharge your body, mind, and soul spa day imaginable. As Reno's only Forbes 4-star spa for 7 consecutive years, Spa Atlantis is a one-of-a-kind spa experience. Every detail has been thoughtfully designed to inspire wellness and leave you feeling more incredible than you ever have before. Book your Spa Atlantis experience today at atlantiscasino.com/spa.
it just reminds me, because in this, in this game, you actually use social media in one of the things, in one of the basically the storyline version, like the season mode, if you will,
career mode,
where you the career mode where you create a wrestler, and that you do you fucking do you tweet with people, like you exchange messages and shit, and depending on the message, it can further a storyline. Nothing wrong with that. What's wrong? That's life. That's cutting edge technology right there. That's breaking.
So do you have a choice to engage? Like, do you get rewarded the more you engage, or the game stops?
If you engage, you can. It doesn't. I don't know if it necessarily. I don't know if it's necessarily a choice per se, but depending on if you respond or not. So, you do have a choice, but if you respond or not, it determines where your character goes next. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Sure is.
But through social media. And they require you have to create a handle. Not like a real handle, but within the game you have to create a handle for your character.
Well,
it's so intriguing. It's so thought provoking.
Well, it's so modern.
That's the beauty of it.
Right. Because what does it mean to build a brand these days?
Exactly. Because that's the thing. You're not just building a brand. You're building a personal brand.
How can you build up a personal brand that you then have to establish in favor of your real name after a disagreement with the company, like we're seeing with the Bella twins, who are now like
the Garcia twins?
Yes.
I don't know what happened. My wife sent me
Oh yeah, Total Bellas has got people invested in what happens with these two.
Yeah, so what happened? What's the deal?
I don't think we know a ton. We just know that in the Raw reunion show, they had expectations that they were going to push this new miniseries built around Nikki's wedding, and they did not push it. There was something that was produced that was supposed to air during that Raw that did not. They were mentioned, the show was mentioned, but they had higher expectations for how they were going to be used. I think they were filming the show and didn't get used in front of the cameras. I'm trying to remember. I think they did make an appearance, but maybe I'm just thinking of them mentioning the E-show. Yeah. But anyway, there was some level of dissatisfaction about that, and then it all just fell apart, and then they were showing up at the AEW pay-per-view and posing for pictures with Paige and, sending those signals. And
hey, MP.
Clearly now they're done with WWE, and they're not using the trademark name anymore. Wow. I think they're going to learn. I wish them the absolute best. They're going to learn a hard lesson, as most people do that are built up in the WWE system, as to...
Oh, they're done.
Yeah. No one gives a shit. Like, Mercedes is going through this, Sasha, there's you can sort of traffic in little niches. I shouldn't say little. You can traffic in niches that make you feel like you're still just as relevant to the wrestling fan as you used to be, but...
No, it's over.
You can't call yourself Sasha.
And they're going to come crawling back, in a year or two, and they're going to be like, okay, eat that fucking humble pie.
Denial isn't a leverage play. Denial isn't a chess move. Denial is just denial.
No, denial is a river in Egypt.
Correct. It's also a river in Egypt. That's right. So good number, but the problem was Jeff Jarrett.
See, did I say river? Is it river?
Yeah, the River Nile. Yeah, it's definitely not the Nile Sea. Nile Sea. That sounds like a guy from England who doesn't use his last name on LinkedIn because he's afraid to be harassed.
Or like One of those flipper flyer wrestlers.
Yeah, sure. Niall C. There's got to be one. There's got to be one on the 205 Live roster that they hired just to keep him away from AEW or something.
And they probably do it like, they probably have it's spelled like NYALL.
Oh fuck! You know what? That's enough. Thank you. So yeah, I mean the Jeff Jarrett Matt Morgan match with Morgan now a babyface in street clothes, of course, and a chain match draws well, but of course Matt Morgan going for the title now. Jeff Jarrett has to beat him in his first match as a babyface on television in a highly rated match. So of course. Once again, TNA squanders.
You're saying this like this isn't what you need to do to get a guy over.
Well, far be it from me to suggest that they don't know precisely what they're doing.
Far be it, indeed.
In building pay-per-views that actually move
Far be it,
numbers. Reaction that night to 934,000 viewers. But, that's totally propped up by the fact that the fucking main event of Impact spilled in a reaction. You look at the quarter after that, they lost 672,000 viewers after the actual wrestling match stopped in that 1 hour block assigned to reaction. So that gimmick's only going to work for so long.
It's fine.
Meanwhile, reports that back at the Carter Mats, we can't forget the Palace intrigue, because we haven't heard a lot about it. Bischoff's made some references to it. There's a really weird family dynamic with the Carters. And you only kind of pick up little bits and pieces, it sounds like, if you're involved with the TNA. But Dixie isn't all, it's not all harmony with her mom and dad and her siblings and stuff. There's a lot of palace intrigue with this family. You can imagine the big bullshit Dallas, ranch they have.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And just like the little snippy remarks made at the dinner table,
Yeah.
Trying to play. Right. It's all, it's got to be Succession all over again, I'm sure. And here's a report about what's starting to bubble up in sort of the money centers of TNA around this point in time. Meltzer reporting, there have been some changes and money is even tighter than before. Janice Carter, Dixie's mother, has been positioned as the person who okays all new funding for the company. They are now limited in the money they can use for new projects and in what is being funded to cover the losses. Eric Young's contract goes ahead and expires at the end of the month, and they offer him a new deal that was a pay cut. And that's becoming distressing because it's happening to people that were supposed to have put in years at TNA and supposed to be taken care of, like Eric Young. It surprised a lot of people, Meltzer writes, because he'd been with the company from the Nashville days, and when there were rumors of him leaving with the contract running out, we were told there was no way because everyone loved him and they were high on the new gimmick he was doing with Orlando Jordan. The problem is money is being cut back, and most of the new deals, at least for non-top guys, are being restructured. During some of these impacts, they even make a storyline out of Rhino re-signing because he was somebody that had to have a talk turkey moment. And so we're Dixie, Spike. It's Janice Carter. She's the one putting her finger on the button that says, sorry, nope. She's the one that can say, no more money for you, figure it out.
What is going on over there at the TNA? I don't understand. I see I see money being bled.
Yes.
Just pouring out of our company. For what? For what?
I'm not thinking this, boss.
What is Dixie trying to do?
Bob, why are we even in this business?
Bob, I don't understand why we're in some kind of hokey bullshit carnival business.
We build nuclear power plants in China. Okay?
We are energy moguls.
And here I am having to deal with these circus performers,
and I have to write checks to guys who don't actually know what they're doing.
Just so we can feel like our daughter runs something? Are you kidding me? You can't find something else for her to do, Bob? If this doesn't stop, I'm going to start drinking again.
Bob, the problem is you've always gone easy on her.
Yeah,
I have told you from the very beginning, you give her a pass every goddamn time. Praise the Lord.
And what the hell, Bob, was that theme song? My God, it's atrocious.
Who wrote that fucking music?
Isn't she married to a musician?
We have relationships with country music stars. Why aren't we talking to our friend? Why is she creating this fuck? What is wrong? I told you I never liked that Surge.
Meanwhile, Surge at a cafe somewhere, like drinking a smoothie. It's his mother-in-law. Oh, hi, Janice.
Fuck you, Surge. I told you from the very beginning that I didn't like you, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to file for divorce for Dixie Carter.
Did she just call her daughter Dixie Carter? Sometimes she hears voices calling out so loud it's her mother on her cell phone. So basically money is tight. Also writing, they got out of control earlier this year, spending big money on new contracts for people who, as it turned out, didn't increase revenue enough to cover them. They canceled house shows on November 19th in Evansville and November 20th in Indianapolis due to weak advances in both cities, since the house show business of late has taken a turn for the worst ever since Bound for Glory. So if you look at Bound for Glory and the interest it generated and the rating it did, and you point to it, all you're doing is pointing to a huge squandered opportunity. You're not pointing to a high point, you're pointing to something that's just evidence that they did not know
what they were doing,
how to hit a ball if it was thrown right down the middle.
Yes.
Okay, so to the November 4th impact we go. So we're now in November. Bischoff out with a karate gi with Ric Flair in his corner. Bischoff in pajamas with gloves, throwing combinations. He's putting combos together, holding his breath, all red in the face.
I did those stupidest fucking shots from the fucking basket.
Did you notice this? The band that the theme song is sung by had the URL was up for their MySpace page.
Oh, fuck me. Are you serious?
Dead serious.
We're still in the MySpace in 2010?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was definitely kind of on the way out. I would say that definitely around 2010, I was probably very minimally using my MySpace page. Yeah. I was still on it a little bit, but I was definitely fully Facebook at the time.
And as regards Twitter, we're still in the twitter.com/
yes,
as opposed to the @ way of defining your profile. And then Bischoff throws some round kicks at the camera. Taz says Bischoff is a high-level martial artist, a grand sensei type. He's trained in the Himalayas, used to run on hot coals, and did cardio training in the Fiji Islands. I think he did other kinds of things in the Fiji Islands, but that's neither here nor there.
He's so fucking fast.
He's holding his breath while he's throwing punches, which is not... I mean, that's going to gas you out like crazy.
I mean, he just looks like somebody who has not ever fought or trained.
Right. He'll regale you with stories of his early kickboxing exploits.
I'm sure.
He's involved in kickboxing on ESPN.
I'm sure he's won championships all around the county.
I think the bottom line is I'm sure he could kick all of our asses. That's the takeaway.
I'm sure absolutely.
He's out with...
and he would tell you that over a glass of red wine and candlelight on his deck.
Don't hate on the guy for having class and sophistication. And the guy had an office in L.A. He had a condo on the beach.
Of course he did.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. He's out with referee Jackson James, a new face on the scene. He grabs the mic and he says,
Here, I got him with his fucking barely able to speak because he can't fucking breathe.
Got some major business to take care of tonight. But right off the bat, I want to address Mr. Matt Morgan. See, earlier today, Ric Flair and I got on the phone, talked to Hulk Hogan, discussed it amongst us, and we all agree. Matt Morgan, no longer part of Fortune.